Welcome back to Telltale Books. This is another special video I'm doing, spur of the moment, because of something I just came across. As I record this on April 5th, I watched an interview just yesterday of a young British author and was kind of impressed by the interview and kind of interested in the descriptions of her books. And so I checked it out, and I found out she has 2 novels, 2 novellas, and then there's a free short story you can get right off of her website. So I downloaded that and I read it today. And wow. The author's name is Stark Holborn, and the interview, I want to credit my source here. The interview was on a channel on YouTube called The Outlaw Bookseller. And he is somebody I watch a lot. He has been in the field a lot. He was a bookseller specializing in science fiction and fantasy for many, many years. He's met a lot of the best authors, still knows a lot of the best authors, and has a very interesting show. He has a great well of knowledge about the genre, especially if you like the new wave authors of the 60s and 70s. There's a lot of that he got interested growing up as a kid. He's around my age, so while I was discovering Asimov and Heinlein and Clark, he was reading Moorcock and Aldous and Christopher Priest and writers like that. And so he has a very, very good channel. And if you aren't paying any attention to him, I think you should. I think you would learn a lot about the genre watching his channel. And so, he normally talks about older science fiction, but for whatever reason, he was going to interview this one young science fiction author, but that author wasn't able to make it. So then he somehow got in touch with this author named Stark Holborn and interviewed her at a bookstore. And so I got to see who she was and hear a little bit about her and her interests. She's mostly interested in a type of science fiction that is, what do they call it? I forget the exact term. It's like science fiction westerns, but not your typical westerns, not your John Wayne westerns, not your Firefly western. Something a lot grittier and darker. And I took an interest because this is something really different to me. And so I found her website and found pages about her works, and I found where I could get a free short story that relates to her first novel called 10 Low. It's set in the same universe as 10 Low. The story is called Snake Eyes. Like I say, you can get it free off of her website. It's a very short story. It's just an ebook, but I read it and I was blown away. Very cool story. I'll give you a brief synopsis. It takes place on this distant moon, and it's set entirely in a bar, a saloon, Old West saloon. Okay, these 2 guys, they're mercenaries, and they have caught somebody who is on the run, a doctor, and they're going to turn him into the authorities for a bounty, and they've beaten him up quite a bit. Well, in walks this old woman, and she sits down. Okay, and so they're talking with her, and I better stop there or I'll blow the whole story and ruin it for you to read. Story is very short, not a lot to it. It doesn't go into a lot of depth, but what's there is fascinating. The writing style is brilliant. The right characters are well characterized, especially for such a short story. The story is, like I say, it's Western, but it's not John Wayne. It's much grittier, much darker, much unlike anything I've ever seen. Maybe Unforgiven comes close to the darkness that you get reading this story. But it was just really, really good. Now, the short story, I'm not going to give it a top tail status. It's too short and too incidental. I want to know more. It feels more like a chapter from her book, which maybe it is. Maybe it is one chapter out of 10 Low. Maybe it isn't a separate short story, but it sounded like this was a separate short story set in the universe of 10 Low. So I don't know. I got to get 10 Low now and read it. She hasn't written a whole lot. She published the novel 10 Low in 2021. She just released on March 21st of this year a book called Hell's 8. And she previously did a couple of novellas, which you can get as ebooks off of Amazon. One called Trigonometry, and the other one Advanced Trigonometry. I've already bought those, and I look forward to reading those right away. And then I want to get a hold of these novels because I'm pretty excited about this. It's, this guy on Outlaw Bookseller, he just introduced me to a great new author, and I want to pass this along. I think, she hasn't written much. I hope she writes a lot more, because what I'm seeing here so far, based on this one short story, and what I've heard about her and about her books and about her interests, this is a great new talent. And she seems to have the writing ability to produce some future classic science fiction novels. So I encourage you to look for Stark Holborn and buy her books. Download her ebooks. Get Snake Eyes, her free short story. I look forward to reviewing more of her work here. I hope you'll come back for that and many more videos. Until then, like us, subscribe to us, leave comments on this video if you've read anything by Stark. Leave comments and tell me about it. I want to know more about this author. And come on back.